Hi everyone, it's 314Reactor here. As you know, Halo 3 is now out on PC on the Master Chief Collection, which is awesome. However, I've noticed that there are some issues with the weapon view model. In the first flighting I played, the view model looked really good. It was nice and far forward, it was in the right position, and with the centered crosshair, it was angled correctly as well, and it just felt really nice. Now it appears they've still maintained the angle towards the centered crosshair if you have that enabled, but the weapon now seems really squashed up and too close to the screen. There's supposed to be some config for this on the way that we're going to look into later, but it only seems to affect Halo Reach. So let's dive right in and have a look at what I mean. Okay, so here we are in Halo 3, the release version that's just come out. And as you can see, the gun is quite squished up to the screen. It doesn't look quite right. It certainly doesn't look as good as it did in the flighting. Now, I can show you some footage from the flighting right now from my older reshade video. So let's have a look at how the weapon did look before this change. Okay, so you can see there that the gun has moved a lot further forward. You can see a lot more of it. You can also see a lot more of the Master Chief's hand and a part of his armor. And it just generally looks a hell of a lot better because the gun doesn't look stubby, it doesn't look short. It just looks a lot more like the assault rifle model from Halo 1. And just looks a lot more chunky and a lot more satisfying to use there. At least in my opinion. Now it just looks too squashed up. Looks really stubby, doesn't look very nice at all. There's supposed to be, as I said, a config on the way that they're developing for this. There's a link in the description to a forum post that explains this. At the moment it's in an INI file that you can edit, but it only seems to affect Halo Reach. But there are other entries in there, supposedly for other games. So let's have a look at the config file and see if we can get it to work for Halo 3 or if it just does affect Reach. And the location of this GameUserSettings.ini file, it's in the forum thread that I've linked below, but it's basically under C, users, your username, AppData, LocalLow, MCC, saved, config, WindowsNoEditor, GameUserSettings.ini, and then you just need to search for weapon display offsets. Okay, so here's the config file in question. What we have is all the weapon display offsets. I know that 5 is the one set for Halo Reach. All the others I'm not sure. I'm guessing that's Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, ODST, Reach, and then 4. So I've tried playing around with these. This is the default, which is all 0, 0, 0, 0, as you can see. So that's the Y offset of the gun, which is obviously up and down, and then Z, which is how close it is to the camera. And then I believe these sub numbers here refer to the different types of weapon, like I think assault rifles and pistols, stuff like that. There's a thread in the description that I'll link to that describes this a lot better. So I've tried playing around with these to try and get the Halo 3 assault rifle to look like it did in the first flight. Really nice looking again. So this is with the defaults. So let's dive into the game and see what Reach looks like with the defaults, and then we'll switch it up to some newer, better settings that I think make Reach look a lot better. So as you can see here with the default offsets, the gun is like really high up. It's actually quite a decent way away from the screen. It doesn't look squished up like Halo 3, but it's really high up. And the reason for that is because of the centered crosshair. When you set it to lowered, it goes down again. Now to me, the lowered crosshair just looks absolutely awful, and the gun looks like a really awkward position. Now in Halo 3, when you change to lowered to centered, it actually angles the gun a bit differently. I'm not sure it does that here. So it seems to angle it a bit, but it mainly just moves it up, and it just makes it look really uncomfortable because you wouldn't really hold a weapon like that right next to your face, like really high up like that. So it just looks a bit awkward, especially there. Look at that. It's like holding it way too high on the shoulder. Just looks and feels awkward. So let's go into that settings file again and change it and see if we can get it to look a little bit better. So here we are back at the config here. I've got some preset configs. What I'm going to do is just paste that over. So what I've done is change every single game under here to these different settings. What I've done is make it Y10. So the higher the number, the lower it goes, as far as I've seen, and the lower the number, the higher it goes. Z, the lower the number, the further away the weapon is, and the higher the number, the closer the weapon is to the camera. So I've lowered it down by 10 to try and offset the way too high weapon models in Reach. I think Halo 1 was okay, but again, I don't think 1 or 2 are affected by these settings at all. We'll have a look into that later. But Reach is, so that should be weapon offsets 5. So the weapons should look a lot lower, a lot more natural. So if you edit this file, the other thing you need to do is make sure that you go read only, apply, because otherwise if you don't put it to read only, the game will automatically overwrite it and set it back to defaults. So let's go back into the game and have a look at Reach and have a look at Halo 3 and see if they've been affected at all. So here we are, much lower, much more natural position, feels much more nested into the shoulder like you'd hold a real gun. Same with the assault rifle, again, push forward a bit as well. It just looks a lot better, a lot more comfortable on the eyes, a lot better, and combined with the central crosshair, just makes the whole experience a lot better. This may seem like a trivial issue, but to me, this kind of thing is quite important, because obviously, first-person shooter, the main thing you're seeing all the time is the gun, so you don't want the gun to be too high or too low or in some sort of weird angle or taking too much of the screen. Let's check out Halo CE to see if these settings have made any difference there. Alright, so here we are in Halo CE original graphics. So as you can see, the gun is not like super far away from the screen, but it still doesn't look squashed up. It looks like it's actually, you know, a reasonably sized gun, and I think that's because you can actually see a lot more of the Master Chief's hand that you just can't see in Halo 3. But I think even then it could do with having the view model pushed forward a bit. Switch to the new graphics. It just doesn't feel as squashed up and as close to the face as the assault rifle in Halo 3. It's really hard to kind of explain. But let's have a look between this and Halo 3. So this is Halo CE, the assault rifle, and this is Halo 3. So you can see quite a big difference. And this is Halo 3 with the first flighting view model. So it just looks, in my opinion, a lot better with the first flighting view model. And from what we're seeing here, those config settings don't seem to affect Halo 1. And I don't think they affect Halo 2 or 3 either. So let's just check Halo 2 to see if they do. There we go, it's Halo 2's view model of the battle rifle. Again, unchanged, but it doesn't really need to be changed because it's quite far forward. Looks very nice. It's not angled in a weird way. It's not held too close to the camera. And it's also not too high up like the default in Reach. But again, it's not been affected by the config file. Now again, you can raise and lower the crosshair in this. You can go to here, lower the crosshair, save, and all it really does is angle the gun down slightly and move it down more, which is more what it looked like in the original game, which just looks kind of awful, to be honest with you. So let's set that back to centered. And there we go. You can also change the FOV as well, but the FOV just affects the environment, it doesn't affect the weapon. So I have the FOV set to 104, but if I lower it all the way down to 70, you can drastically see the difference in the environment, but the gun looks exactly the same. 104, back. But again, the gun position in Halo 2, even in the original graphics, looks pretty decent. There's nothing to complain about there. It's not too high, it's not too close. Let's flip over to Halo 3 and see if the config file has had any effect on the weapons there. And nope, no effect. Still exactly the same. The gun's not moved forward any further, it's not moved back any further, it's not moved up or down, it's not changed in any conceivable way like Reach has. And to make sure, let's do a direct comparison. This is with the config file set, and this is with default. So as far as I can see, it's the same. So the config file affects Reach only, doesn't affect any of the other games. The view model in Halo 3 is just too close to the screen, just doesn't look good. It should look further out. It should have a wider field of view on the weapon to make it look better. Now one thing that is better is, again, like I mentioned, the centered crosshair makes the gun look a hell of a lot better, because the default, like this, where the gun's kind of pointing down, just looks horrible. I mean, it's like, it's too high, like in default Reach, and it's like pointing down. But when we switch back to centered, looks a hell of a lot better. It's just too squished up and close to the screen. So in conclusion, I hope that 343 add this setting in for all games, at least even just in the ini file, to adjust weapon positions to make it a lot more palatable for people like me that really overly care about this sort of thing. I know people agree with me on this sort of thing. There are people out there. But there are some people that don't care, and that's fair enough. That's fair enough if you're not bothered, but some people are. I mean, first-person shooters are all about the weapons and how they look, and if you get that wrong, the whole game just feels wrong. First time I played through Halo 2, 3, and 4, it just felt wrong with the lowered crosshair, the lowered FOV, and the gun's too squished up. And in the flighting of Halo 3, the first flighting, the gun looked amazing. It felt really good to use again. And I just hope 343 allow this setting. I mean, just having something in the menu would just be really cool. Also, another thing to note, just quickly, is that HDR is still not implemented in the PC version, which is bizarre. I mean, there's no option here. There's no option for HDR. And they keep saying there is HDR, but there isn't. And it's on the Xbox version. So that's just another thing I'm just wondering. One thing I will give them credit for is that they're introducing skins, but they have given you the ability to disable them. So if you don't want to see skins in multiplayer, you can turn that off, which I think that's really good. I'm really appreciative of that. That's a good quality of life setting, because not everyone wants to see skins. Anyway, that's all from me. Please do get back to enjoying Halo 3. I hope you have a good day. I hope everyone's staying safe. Please do like and subscribe for future gaming videos, and I'll see you in the next one.
Pile out, people, let's move!